Hey everyone, welcome to Reddit Readout. Today we are checking out 2-sentence horror. Story 1. I don't want to go see daddy, the little girl shouts, throwing her iPad at her mom's head, so stop the car right now. It's okay honey, her mother giggles as she breaks through the barrier and goes hurtling towards the river below. We're almost there. Story 2. I finally got the courage to try to leave my room again. But like all the times before, leaving though the doorway led me right back here into this same room I've always been in. Story 3. I was horrified to see my sleep paralysis demon still standing at the foot of my bed when I woke up. Sorry, but I can't fight them off anymore, emanated from its cut-up body before crumbling to dust. Story 4. My friend and I decided to adopt an animal for our apartment. It was shocking that when we got to the animal shelter there were only human children. Story 5. LPT request: how to convince my 8-year-old son to take his Tylenol. He was attacked by a fox a few weeks ago, and while the scratches healed nicely he refuses to swallow anything since yesterday. Story 6. Knowing hell kill me if he sees I surreptitiously drop my note with my desperate plea for help in the crowded shopping mall. The kind stranger smiled as he tapped my husband on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me sir, I think you dropped this." Story 7. As I lay on the hospital bed my beautiful baby boy smiled up at me. This may be my first child, but I don't think infants are supposed to have so many teeth. Story 8. The anesthetist warned me that some people experience hallucinations as they go under. I knew I was just imagining it when, right before I blacked out, I saw my abusive ex enter the room and hand the doctor a stack of cash. Story 9. As I knelt down to receive the Eucharist for my first communion I shook in excitement. Finally, the first form of sustenance my parents had allowed in weeks. Story 10. I cried as the president held up my baby. As the gunshot sounded out from the crowd, I finally realized what a coward that man really was. Story 11. June announcement and May winners. People often ask me, Shindig? Is it hard being such a magnificent cult leader, bringer of darkness, father of the new world person? And I say, it is, my child, but I do it all for you. Now, on with our announcements. Happy Pride Month! Please remember that stories involving oppression, i.e., homophobia, transphobia, racism, etc., are already considered overused tropes under Rule 7. If you see something, say something. If you see a post that you think breaks the rules, don't just make a comment and hope that the mods get to it, report it. It's the only way to guarantee that a moderator puts eyes on the story. While we understand the temptation to use ChatGPT, one of our rules is that the stories you submit must be written by you. If we find you've been using ChatGPT to generate stories, the posts will be removed under Rule 5, be original. Don't troll or spam, don't be a jerk, don't plagiarize, and don't intentionally post stories that are low quality / low effort. All of these things may result in a permaban. Read up on our 3 strikes and you're out rule. Note, plagiarism is a once and you are permabanned ban. Just because a sentence is long doesn't mean that it's a run-on sentence, and just because you used a comma instead of a period doesn't mean it's a single sentence. June is named after the Roman goddess Juno, the goddess of marriage and childbirth. Her Greek equivalent was Hera, and she was the wife of Jupiter. Juno had many aspects and epithets, and scholarly debate about her role in mythology is complex and very, very interesting. The festival honoring Juno Moneta, or Juno the Warner, was traditionally held on June 1st. One of the most popular depictions of Juno has her wearing a goatskin cloak, symbolizing her warlike aspect. Therefore, our prompt for this lovely month of June is cloak. Your story must include the word cloak or one of its variations, cloaked, cloaking, etc. It may be a physical cloak or non-physical. Be creative. Properly formatted June 2023 examples. JUN23 The cloak was red. This is the second sentence. JUN23 I can't see the ship, Captain. It must be cloaked. Improperly formatted examples. JUNE2023 This tag isn't right. Cloaks are pieces of clothing. In JUN23, I got the tag right, but it's not at the beginning. I also didn't mention the theme. June contest rules. The top 10 highest voted stories will be the winners. Winners can only place in the top 10 once. The highest of the entries will be their winner. Only net new stories will be allowed, no repurposing old stories you've previously submitted. Submissions that are improperly formatted, do not fit the theme, or break any of the existing sub-rules will be disqualified and removed. Max 3 stories per day is a general rule, and all 3 can be used towards the contest. Entries that are edited after submission may be disqualified. If you edit it to fix a typo, that should be fine. If you edit to fix formatting, language, or plot, it is up to the mod's discretion to remove. Winners will be decided by total community upvotes. In the unlikely event of a tie for the top spots, moderators will vote for a tiebreaker. Winners will receive first, second, and third places. You receive a custom personal flair of your choosing to show off to the TSH community. If you're a repeat winner, you can modify your flair. But that's it. And a cool fancy flair on your winning stories. 7 honorable mentions. Story links will be featured on next month's announcement. Contest ends on June 30, 2023 at 11:59 p.m. GMT. Any questions should be made below in the Story 12. People used to say that first thought is how you were taught to think and second thought is your own true opinion. No one noticed how the ability to think twice disappeared. Story 13. My HOA has some ridiculous rules, but the worst are the ones requiring our involvement in community safety efforts. For what I pay in HOA fees, I feel like they should hire someone to kidnap homeless people to feed to the monster living in the woods abutting the neighborhood, rather than asking us to do it. Story 14. I always keep a handgun inside my house for home defense. As I frantically searched for it, I realized that my little brother was going to an airsoft match this weekend. Story 15. This is your captain speaking, and if you look out your windows you'll notice we're very close to the mountains. Unfortunately for the rest of you, the man seated in 23A has been sleeping with my wife, and seeing as he's caused my marriage to crash and burn, I figured I'd return the favor. Story 16. His heart warmed when he caught a glimpse of the pair of blue tits. Even if she was a little cold, the mortuary staff would be gone long enough for him to have his fun. Story 17. After the disheveled man bit my wife, I shot her to keep her from turning. It was only while looting his home that I found the meth lab and realized he might not have been infected after all. Story 18. I have the power to levitate inanimate objects with my mind. On my trip to New York I tried to levitate the Statue of Liberty and nothing happened. Story 19. After hours of thinking I was completely lost in the claustrophobic tunnels of the catacombs, I finally saw an opening of light. What a day to find out fireflies sit in groups. Story 20. I hear the train a common, it's rolling round the bend. I think I'll just lie here till I meet my end. Story 21. Infants can instinctively hold their breath underwater, chimed a smug parent. Not for that long, screamed the panicked bystander. Story 22. As a police detective, my first wish was easy, to be able to look at someone and see what crimes they had committed. A week later, I gouged out my own eyes. Story 23. I had 3 seconds of sight left. I was fascinated by how much my brains resembled oatmeal, splattered on the concrete. Story 24. The key to making 2 sentences seem scary isn't the words you use. It's how much blood it takes to write them on the floor. Story 25. As I stared into the heart of multiverse, I could see every decision I had, or had not, made stretching across eternity. Hell, the devil said, is a view down the road not traveled. Story 26. I sure hope I don't get murdered by a clown tonight, I sighed. Story 27. They told me the old lady with dementia I worked for had only stillbirths and to be sensitive of it. When I found her frantically trying to smother the fake doll I gave her to calm her, and her telling me her husband would find out about her affair, all I could do was tell her we'd get rid of it together. Story 28. I briefly wondered if my new pet was bothered by what I was doing. But considering how primitive their brains are compared to ours, I don't think humans can actually feel pain. Story 29. I bawled my eyes out in my high school counselor's office, finally explaining all the abuse my mother had put me through. I got quite the interesting phone call today, my mother told me later that day as I came home from school, the shankla in her hand. Story 30. I started awake gasping, the vivid nightmare of being surrounded by chanting rat-like demons still pounding in my head. The only thing moving in the room is the cat at the foot of the bed, slowly licking his claws. His white paws appear red in the dim light. Story 31. Almost every major world religion claims that your soul will be damned if you don't belong to that particular religion, so how would anyone know the correct one? The demons at the gate laughed. The last one of the one true religion died several millennia ago. Story 32. My tension was finally starting to lift as I laid relaxed, floating under the warm ocean sun. The reality of my inevitable death was setting in as I realized that the dehydration was finally getting to me after nearly 3 days of being lost at sea, and for the first time since, I stopped fighting it. Story 33. You're such a good boy, she cooed, reaching out to scratch the spot behind her dog's ears. She stood on the overcrowded raft and watched as the ship sank lower, her dog drifting out of her reach. Story 34. I love you to bits, she said, chopping up her cheating husband and cooking his flesh after shattering his skull with a hammer. Story 35. My husband pounded on the bathroom door with a force that made me jump. I quickly opened it to see him seated in the living room, asking me if I was okay after the loud pounding he heard from the bathroom. Story 36. Ida for kicking my son out of my house as he turned 18. He might be nervous at first, but I am sure he would be excited to see the world for the first time in his life. Story 37. It's 2 a.m. and in my bedroom is a big beast with hungry-looking eyes jumping at me. I woke up and was happy that it was just a dream, until I heard a growling noise and looked at the clock. Story 38. I could feel that someone was watching me as I slept. I woke up to my chair pointing towards me with no trace of life whatsoever. Story 39. After the pregnant woman learned about her friend's miscarriage, she invited her to her house to console her. The next thing she knew, her stomach was cut open and her friend carrying a fetus, repeatedly saying, "Don't worry, your mama will take care of you." That's all for today. Please don't forget to like and subscribe.